visitors, if there are any visitors who wish to be heard outside the regular agenda. Seeing none. Correspondence, I don't have any. And that brings us to the board report and the finally prepared school committee meeting minutes of February 24th, 2025.
I'll make a motion to accept February 24, 25 school committee meeting minutes.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. They are approved. And it looks like you're on for such minute taking.
I am.
Excellent. One other item for the board report today was just in the process of our strategic plan review in the HR section in particular, just checking in on how we were doing with professional development and the hiring pipeline, particularly now that we have our CIA director up and running. And so I want to spend a few minutes, some combination of you, Dr. Collins, and Principal Kelly talking about just how things are going and anything we might need to be concerned with.
Okay, so the hiring pipeline, as you are aware, the candidate pools have been less than pre-COVID times, and so we have been analyzing when we do get candidates, we analyze and ask them where they heard about us, and the vast number of them tell us Indeed, and it's interesting because we don't advertise on Indeed, but we continue to do School Spring. We found that the newspaper and the Shopper's Guide weren't where people were hearing about us, so we've stopped doing that. We tried the billboard for a while. We had a billboard out on the bypass, and we have Dr. Ames and I are scheduled to go outside of the Berkshires to Bridgewater State University. They have a strong education program. They're having an education career fair in the spring, and so we're going to see if we can attract folks from outside of our area, convince them to come to the lovely Berkshires. As you know, if somebody comes out of the teachers' college with bachelors, we right now have an arrangement to pay them to be able to obtain their master's degree. That's another invitational way to choose us. When we had our professional development days, we invited those who were studying at Berkshire Community College and MCLA, studying to be paraprofessionals or teachers. We opened up 15 slots to each school to invite their candidates, the people in their programs, to come and to take part of in our PD for nothing, zero, and we didn't have any responses. It seems that right now both the principals have been doing networking and cold calls to people that they know have been looking previously, and that seems right now to be our most effective advertisement is the administrative network. We post on our website, we post on our social media pages. Assistant Principal Sewells changed it from the regular post to more of a graphic, and when we changed that over to the graphic, we actually got 2 people to throw their hat in the ring to be Paris, so maybe there's something to be said for the graphic representation with a great tiger on it. So, yeah, that's our hoping to attract folks. And then the retention piece, a little bit later on, you're going to see from our mentor leadership team and teacher induction program. They're going to be sharing some of that, but that is part of our effort. What we're hoping is that our staff's word of mouth, when they say, hey, I came to this district and they really invested the time and energy in me. They gave me the support to be successful right off the bat. And even beyond that 3 years of mentoring, they continued to show there's an employer that cares for me. That word of mouth, I suspect, is going to be the most powerful thing as we move forward and people speak with their colleagues in other districts. And then you wanted to hear a little bit from Director Kelly about the curriculum instruction and assessment. She's got some.
Could I just ask a follow-up question
Please,
to you?
yes.
Sorry, would you mind? No. Okay. So I have the billboards, the graphics, all of that, and it's great. It's great you and Jeremiah are going right directly to Bridgewater. I've never seen a posting on School Spring for a teacher. Is the new master incentive program in that as well, or is it a pretty thorough, description of the job? Do we mention that master's incentive on School Spring?
We don't mention that in School Spring, but if anyone shows that we're one of the places that they're looking, that is when we say, hey, here is something that that may differentiate us from some of your other choices.
So you don't want them just to come just because of the master's incentive? You don't think mentioning the master's incentive program would be a plus?
You know what we can do is
I'm just curious.
our next School Spring, we can plug it in and see if it makes a difference.
To me, that seems to be an incentive.
Sure.
But you might be more different.
No, we're willing to try it because
I don't think so at this point.
right. We're trying to find strategies that are going to be successful.
So first, I want to give a little update on what we've done so far this year. I'll speak directly to LMMHS. So we have benchmarked all students in grades 6 through 8, and we have held data meetings in grades 6 through 8. So that's great. We are ahead of schedule. The middle school staff is amazing to work with, and I'm really enjoying my time with them. Moving forward, next year, if all goes as planned, we'll be developing a robust intervention program in the middle school in both ELA and math. And that looks like, looking at the materials we're using for an intervention program, having discussions with teachers, and increasing our parent communication in that area. Most recently at Morris, we are starting, just yesterday, put the word out, a curriculum council, which I will also like to start over here at the middle school next year, where we begin looking at our curriculum. And at Morris, we are going to be looking at our ELA curriculum, specifically in the 4th grade. There's a whole program, and it was actually in the commissioner's report tonight, hot off the press. Implement MA, there's a whole process that you go through when you're looking at implementing a new curriculum, and we are going to be using that process. And also strengthening, hopefully, some of our professional development practices, working with our leadership teams, and looking at our deeper learning, which has also been put out by the state. And I hope to be working with the director of technology. When he's working with his AI, I'll be working with the teachers, just making sure that we are enhancing our learning opportunities with students. And lastly, a goal of mine is to send out all this information to parents. A couple times a year, have a little curriculum newsletter. Any questions?
Anything, as we look ahead, strategic plan is up to sort of a 5-year look ahead. Are there any particular things we should have on the radar?
So, when you look at a curriculum renewal cycle, those are usually can be very expensive depending on if you stay with the same program or whether or not you choose to go a different route. So I would have that on your radar. And one last thing, I'm also the communication between the fabulous mentor leadership team you're going to hear and the administration. They rock.
If I may. So we ended up hiring from within because of what a solid and impressive job Principal Kelly had done at the Morris School. But I have to say, following, as we're starting to come toward the conclusion of this year, had we had 50 applicants, it is clear to me that that Director Kelly would have been the best choice. We really are so fortunate. She's already exceeded my expectations for what would happen in this year.
Thank you. Any questions?
All right. Should we move to the superintendent's report?
All right, highlights and recognitions. Morris had Read Across America, members of the community and municipal government came and read. It was a great event. The kids liked it. Our business partners that came liked it. It was well done, well organized, and a big success. Rachel Meswar had a bouncing baby boy, Theo, 7 pounds and 20 inches. We're happy to report. Very exciting. Let's see here. We have a number of things. Girls basketball, they did an outstanding job and brought us an awful lot of excitement. 3 of them were named All Berkshire. Kelsey Kirchner, Jocelyn Fairfield, and Chloe Arsenios were all named All Berkshire. The high school robotics team won a design award at the Rams Robot Rally Qualifier in Northbridge. And a big kudos to all of the performers and the people behind the scenes that made Freaky Friday musical a success. They had 5 performances that were very well received. I think next is the field trip request. Dr. Ames is going to do that for the senior trip to Coney Island. And just to remind the committee, it's because this doesn't have a fiscal ramification, but it is out of state. So any out of state field trip.
That's right. Yeah, I'm here on behalf of the senior class, who's done a great job of putting this trip together with our advisors, Heather McNeese and Aaron Malloy. The trip itself is fully funded out of money that they've raised as a class. They've done a great job. I believe this trip in total, including transportation, runs about $9,000. So it says a lot that they've put in the work over the years to raise this money. There's no direct expense to students, but we're asking them to give a $20 deposit just to sort of cement their position in all this. They get that back when they get on the bus to offset their lunch expenses, that sort of thing. We've got it down to 1 bus. Everybody who wants to go on the trip is going. We have only, I believe it's, there are 5 students who are not going for various reasons. There are 51 students going, and there are 5 chaperones, and 56 puts us at a very full coach bus. They're leaving early in the morning, getting home late at night. The trip is scheduled for June 2nd. That's the Monday before graduation. I think that also happens to be Brian Kelly's birthday. So he's one of the chaperones. No, our birthday present to him is making sure he's not on the trip, but I'm sure he would step in the pinch. But it's a great trip. It's very, very well organized. If you know Ms. Malloy and Ms. McNeese, you know that no stone has been left unturned. Everything has been thought of and discussed thoroughly, and I think it's going to be a great trip. We humbly ask for your approval because it's out of state, but I can assure you have very, very little to worry about for this excursion.
Any questions?
I'll make a motion to accept the senior trip to Coney Island as presented.
favor? Aye. It is approved.
Thank you.
Don't eat too many hot dogs.
Save that for July 4th.
When I arrived here, I had a vision for expanding our mentoring program and our new teacher induction program. And as I said, how Director Kelly's exceeded my expectations. The mentor leadership team, who was led by Mary and Jenna, have exceeded my expectations as well. This is something I'm incredibly proud of the work that they do, and they've invited me to several of their events, and they are so well thought out and put together and supportive of our new staff. I'm going to turn it over to them, but I want to publicly say thank you for all of that work. And I do see in the crowd the facilitators that we hired to help guide us, Sue Teese and Lisa Rice. Thank you for coming out to support the group.
You're welcome.
Jenna.
Thank you, Dr. Collins. My name is Jenna White. I am a 5th grade teacher at Morris and the mentor coordinator for Morris. And this is Mary Sorrentino. She teaches 7th grade here and is the mentor coordinator for LMMHS. So first, just thank you for having us here to share and for your support in what we've done over the past year and a half or so. We are just really happy to be able to share about what we're doing, and we're glad to have the whole mentor leadership team here. So I'm just going to introduce them. So representatives from Morris, you already heard from Brenda, who Director of Curriculum and Instruction, and also Morris Principal. We also have special education teacher Anna Pettis, 3rd grade teacher Emily Wood, and unable to be with us today, but here in spirit, I'm sure, and also watching from home, I'm sure, is Nancy Greenwald, who is our Unit C representative and a Title I interventionist at Morris. So we wish she was here with us, but I know she's here in spirit. And then our LMMHS representatives, middle school special education team leader and teacher Ellen Ferris, and Spanish teacher and chair of world languages Anne-Marie Rodriguez. And as Dr. Collins mentioned, we also have Sue Teese and Lisa Rice here with us. They have guided us in a lot of our work over the past year and a half also. Just wanted to kind of start with reading this mission statement. This is one of the first things we did last year when we started with the mentor leadership team. There already was a mission statement, but we refined it and sort of made it our own. So I thought we'd read that to get going. The Lenox Public Schools mentoring program provides new faculty members with peer support from teachers who are invested in the successful integration of new faculty into the Lenox community. The mission is accomplished by providing opportunities that promote the development of professional habits and practices that result in teacher and student success. So now Mary's just going to share a little bit more about the work of the leadership team.
So we're kicking off our mission statement. The leadership team started off the year with our new staff orientation day. This included welcome messages from Dr. Collins, Chair Cass, our administrative team, as well as our Lenox Education Association. Also included in that day were time for tech setup, classroom setup, first day planning, curriculum investigation, and even a tour of our current Lenox. From there, our mentor leadership team decided that we would best serve our work if we were divided up into subcommittees. So from that point on, we began meeting monthly, and during that time, we broke up and started to work on the following different aspects of our work. So there's publications, Unit C program development, communications with community, our mentor-mentee programming, and connecting with the DESI Induction and Mentoring Advisory Board. Tonight, our committee members will tell you a little bit more about their work. And of course, Sue and Lisa have been there all along the way, helping us out and supporting us through all the different subcommittee works. So we're actually going to start with them, hearing a little bit about their portion.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having us here. And I just want to congratulate you all on this wonderful investment that you've made. I come from Southampton, as does Lisa, and we both have been participants in a very successful induction and mentoring program. And I just truly feel that the work that the people who are on these teams right now are really, it will really promote good teaching. It will really result in high student performance. It will also result in lots of collaboration among colleagues, which is something that is really important because it can be a little lonely out there at times. And I think that the start of this program has really moved beyond probably what Dr. Collins said, exceeded his expectations. So I congratulate you for that.
And just to highlight some of the things that we have done so far with the mentor leadership team. In August of 2023, we coordinated with the Lenox District and with the Center at Westfield State University for all members of the leadership team to be trained in the leadership program. We had consulted in the revision and refinement of the Lenox Mentoring Handbook. We have delivered some workshops and training around the mentoring protocol, participated in the development and training of the Lenox leadership team, and we are providing ongoing consultation support to the subcommittees that you're going to hear a little bit about the work that they are doing. And so we're collaborating and providing support to them. So we enjoy working. It is a fabulous team. They are very dedicated and motivated, and they're doing phenomenal work for your district.
Next up, we have Brenda Kelly and Marie Rodriguez to talk to us about the publication subcommittee.
Hi everyone, it's nice to see you all again. Did you want to start?
So last year, the mentoring handbook. Last year when Anne-Marie and I were consulting with Lisa and Sue, the mentoring handbook has been in our district for a very long time, but we realized it needed an update. So last year, Anne-Marie and I updated it to the best of our ability. The great thing about the mentor leadership team is having different representation from different parts of our district on the team. So this year, one of our tasks was looking at the handbook and then looking at from all different stakeholders' perspectives and updating it. Again, it's a working document. It's like even our school handbooks. I'm constantly updating the Morris handbook. So that was a really important task that we did. And Anne-Marie will talk about the latest reference guide.
So what we quickly realized in revising the handbook was that it was an incredibly thorough, comprehensive document, but almost too much to hand a new teacher that's coming into a building, coming into a district, trying to learn two buildings, all navigating new relationships, new curriculum, that we needed more of a quick reference guide, a startup guide. So we decided to simplify it for the first few days of school so that teachers would be able to, if you want to click on the link, that might be just to skim through it, but it's really, let me read it. Yeah. Is that okay? And just maybe go down very quickly to show them. It's just a very simple, there's phone numbers that are important, how to deal with absences, subplans, navigate things in different buildings. And then in doing this, we realized that's great, but what's happening at the middle school is very different from what's happening at the elementary school. So we each added an addendum to the quick start guide which is more of a nuts and bolts sort of document. So we didn't like the name nuts and bolts, we changed it to quick reference, so if you have any ideas that you want us to incorporate, we're certainly open to that, but right now I think we feel like quick reference is the way to go. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Ellen Ferris. She'll be speaking about her and Nancy Greenwald's work in Unit C.
Hi, everyone. So when we formed as a group in the spring of last year, we didn't yet have Unit C representation. So that became pretty evident really quickly that we have new Unit C folks starting at all times of the year, not unlike the rest of the staff, right? And so we really quickly knew they needed both training on an ongoing basis and mentoring. And those needs are very different. So we did do a survey with them, and we're not really surprised to find that they're an incredibly diverse group. As we tried to, even in formulating the survey, it was like, well, wait, but we have questions that are geared towards this group, but in fact, it's, as you can see there, you've got special education and classroom paraprofessionals. Title I folks are in Unit C. And then there are academic and behavioral interventionists between the two buildings, folks in the library, kitchen staff, and clerical staff, all under that umbrella. So when we think about how we're going to incorporate them into the mentoring and induction program, it's pretty big nut to, that we didn't fully, we knew we couldn't take that on fully in that first phase, but that we have a lot of work to do. So we did get great information from them. They definitely, I think the strong message was like they want to feel included, you know, in this community, and they want more training. And so, and we're going to develop a handbook for them, and really just develop the next pieces of the, excuse me, of the program. So, I think that we look forward to that.
We have Anna Pettis and Emily Wood talking about community connection and communication.
So we're all really proud of the work that we've been doing and the work that we're going to continue to do. And we want to make sure that our community knows. We want to share it not only with our new hires and our current mentors, but also with all of you, with our business partners, even our experienced teachers, our parents. I don't know if I said business partners yet because I'm nervous. And just anyone who's part of our Lenox Public Schools family. We also, Anna has made a beautiful flyer for us to share with our business partners, but to also share with local colleges, or even maybe to bring to Bridgewater, when you head to Bridgewater, just to give some information about how fabulous we are.
Some good graphics.
Isn't it beautiful? And you'll see some of my babies on there. And we did realize that we have to include some of the older kids in those pictures as well. But I'll show my babies.
Yeah,
This is your
sure.
class?
So,
This is my class, yeah.
yeah, so it's a draft for a few reasons, mainly because we have 2 photos from Morris. Both Emily and I work at Morris. We will gather some photos and include some of the older students too. It's just a draft, and anyone else has input to include, we're happy to include it. Also noting at the bottom that we are working on a new website page for our district, which will have this information, but also it'll be a space for much more expanded upon information. And so when this flyer is completely finished, we'll have a QR code on this flyer that will link right to our website page. Also on that website page that's not shown on the flyer here will be a quick access to the handbook, some important people in the program's contact information for new teachers that just need a place to go and find where they can get us, and both resources for mentors and mentees, as well as expanding upon all the program components beyond just bullet points. And the some topics of study are a few of our monthly meeting topics, but they couldn't all fit there, so there's a lot more to expand upon on our website.
talking a little bit more about our induction and mentor program. And Jenna and I have worked with our team and our consultants to develop monthly meetings that we create and run for mentor-mentee partnerships. These meetings are loosely connected to the standards for effective teaching as described by the Massachusetts Educator Evaluation Framework. So connected to curriculum planning and assessment are our growth producing feedback, spotlighting successes in the classroom and observation meetings. Connected to teaching all students. We had a behavior management meeting, as well as our one and only Brian Kelly coming to lead a special education meeting. Under family and community engagement, we ran a meeting on parent communication and collaboration. And for professional culture, we started off the year with our new staff orientation. We're running, our next meeting up is a self-care, work-life balance. And our last meeting, which you can see here, was our quick connections networking meeting. So this was kind of a fun meeting that we ran, and it started with a group of about 20 or so mentors, department heads, leadership team members, pretty much anybody and everybody we could convince to come to the meeting. And this started off with highlighting their contributions to our district in terms of different roles they play outside of the classroom or the title that they hold. This group of people then opened themselves up to answering questions, talking shop, really just getting to know our new members. And so we kind of did a round robin sort of 5 or 6 minute switch it up meeting, and we really got to know each other in a more personal way, and in the end it seemed pretty clear that everyone learned from each other, and it just was a really fun event. From there, we're going to wrap up our meetings with our mentors, mentees, a little self-reflection, taking a look at evaluation of the program as well as their own year and how we can help them move forward to start off their second year or third year. We work with second year hires as well to really kickstart the year. So rounding out our presentation tonight, we have Jenna, who's going to speak with our coordination with DESE and the Induction Mentoring Advisory Group.
So kind of a timely thing as we are working on developing our program in Lenox. Early on this school year, the state put out a request to any interested stakeholders to become a member of an induction and mentoring advisory group. The state wanted input from administrators, mentors, mentees, and teachers from districts across the state. So I was able to be on the group, and one of the only Berkshire's representatives, which is interesting. The two main goals of the group is one, to create a new document for guidelines and requirements. So we're basically giving feedback and providing recommendations to the state. That's done, and there's a draft form of it on the DESE website for anyone in the public to read and leave feedback. And then we're also working on a new handbook, which doesn't currently exist. So they're making a state handbook that districts will be able to use and guide in creating their own handbook. So I feel like this is coming at a good time because our group has really done a lot with our own handbook, and we'll be able to use the edits and things and continue our work there. But for me, selfishly, for our district, the best part of being in the group is to be able to learn from colleagues who I would never get a chance to speak with on Zoom.
and learn how they're running their programs and steal a few ideas here and there. But also, it's been really validating and that we are doing some great things, and just affirming that we're headed in the right direction. So I've been attending monthly meetings, and there's a couple more this year, but it's just a nice thing to kind of partner with our work with the leadership team. So I think with that, we're all done. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Yeah, I don't know if anyone had any questions. I got to come see the group, as Sorrentino mentioned, at the first day. It was just fantastic to see everybody there. My sense is that many districts have some sort of formal program in name, but that the investment you guys are putting into this is really very different. That's great. It's pretty much the most important thing I think we can be doing for the new teachers, so thank you.
If I may, I've said a few times, when I came in, I spoke about making systematic and systemic changes, and this really is a foundation, because the research suggests that if someone's going to leave the profession, they're going to leave it forever. They're going to leave it within the first 3 years and never come back. And the main reason for leaving is a lack of this sort of support that we have right here. And I know I quote Peter Drucker all the time, but culture eats strategy for breakfast, and they are building an amazing culture. And my belief, first of all, is that this is going to be a premier mentoring and new teacher induction program for the state. And secondly, once other schools realize the kind of support that Lenox has and is willing to invest in, the word of mouth is going to be that this is the place to be supported if you're an educator. I commend you on your work.
Thank you.
There's a donation, the Monroe England Legacy Fund donation for a scholarship to benefit Lenox High School students. It is $2,086, and because it is a donation, it needs your acceptance.
Any questions?
Yeah, it's a little vague to me. So, not that I'm going to accept your donation, but this is for, it's $2,086 for graduation students.
Please, I have the letter right here. Please find attached a grant from the Monroe England Legacy Fund of the Berkshire Taconic Community Foundation in the amount of $2,086 for the Monroe England Scholarship Fund to benefit Lenox High School students.
Those are managed by the guidance department.
Okay, okay.
And so it goes toward supporting continuing education.
We would go for a scholarship or scholarship.
Okay.
They're typically paid after the first semester of their first year.
Okay.
And some dictate we do it in the summer before, but most are really good.
I'll make a motion to accept the donation of $2,086 for the Monroe England Scholarship Fund to benefit Lenox High School students.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It passes.
All right, that concludes my report.
Thank you, sir. And we are on to the main event of tonight's meeting, the official fiscal year 26 budget presentation. The floor is yours.
I feel so special, I'm sitting. All right, so I'm going to be talking about the 26 operating budget, where we are now, and
As you know, in a couple of weeks, you'll be voting on the budget, deliberating tonight, voting in a couple of weeks. So we're very near the end. Numbers are basically finalized at this point, but, you know, with still some room to make adjustments if something comes up. So, to review the budget timeline, we start really in October with getting paperwork together, sending out charts to the buildings principals and directors, and where they can start thinking about what their needs are for the next year, looking at scheduling, looking at staffing, looking at retirements that they know of at that point, and pulling it all together. That's done in November, and then in December, we have some review meetings, and we ask that the principals submit and department chairs submit their final budget requests. January, we bring it to the school committee, the initial budget for the initial overview. February are all the department presentations that go into much more detail than the overview does about what the needs are at each school. March, we have the town and school finance meetings, the deliberation that's occurring tonight, the public hearing in a couple weeks, formal approval of the school department budget by the school committee, and then in May we move to the annual town meeting where the taxpayers vote for approval or approval. So that's our timeline. It's basically most of the year. So what we have in this budget is revisions from the initial, and really we had money in reserve. We have 2 collective bargaining units that are in negotiations, and we are now in different stages of those negotiations at this point in time. So we were able to pull some of the salary estimates from the reserve and move them into the actual salary account lines for each department within each school, middle, high, and elementary, and move those over so that each department now is more accurate rather than a bulk contingency or reserve fund. And that's what's occurred at Morris and LMMHS. Special education, same thing. We moved from reserve into salary lines. However, there is an increase of $53,000 that was added into this final proposed budget due to out-of-district tuition costs that have just recently surfaced in the last few weeks. Technology, there's no changes in the technology budget from the initial to today. Central administration, there is slight change in a salary reduction in the salary line due to revision and retirement date. So it'll move the overlap of personnel from the 2026 fiscal budget to the 2027 fiscal budget. So you'll see that next year. And operations and maintenance, really just utility rates. We received in some information about a week ago about costs per therm for gas and electricity updates, so I've revised those accordingly. They're still not solidified, but I think we're getting closer, and the numbers are a little bit closer than they were earlier.
And Melissa, is Unit D in the operations and maintenance?
Yes, they are.
With the accounting for the progress of the negotiation?
Yes, I should have included that there. Good catch. But yes, Unit D would be in operations and maintenance under the salary lines. So the 2026 gross operating budget, and that's the operating expenses without benefits, and before we apply any of the school funding resources. Those are the funds like school choice and circuit breaker and tuition accounts that we apply to help offset the operating expenses each year. So the first column is by department, the final budget for 25. The next column is the initial budget that was presented in January, and you can see the total was $16,466. This budget is 16,303,057 with some of the adjustments that we've made. So that makes the overall variance in the gross operating from 25 to 26, 795,000 or 5.13%. Now that is before any application of revenues.
And Melissa, looking at just, we still have a reserve roughly twice last year's.
Yes.
Is there a reason to be much higher this year than we were last year?
Part of that reserve is non-collective bargaining salaries that are negotiated typically after the budget is approved. There's also special ed expenses allocated for potential additional needs. And I think that is the only non-salary besides the administrative, and Unit D still has some in reserve at this point. So the revenues that we have targeted to use this year are the same ones we use every year, but the amounts changed. And so what we do is look at what we have in the fund, what we're anticipated to offset this budget by, what we anticipate to end this year with based upon deposits made, like school choices deposited monthly, and then what we can reasonably afford to use out of that fund to offset the expenses in the operating budget. So school choice has gone up a bit from last year, and I think that's probably the highest we really want to go with that number. I think we should start trying to drop it down a little bit in future years. Circuit breaker, circuit breaker is a 3-year cycle. We have the expenses 1 year, we submit for reimbursement in that year, we receive the reimbursement, and we budget it in the next year to offset special ed expenses. So the 212,972 is a full expenditure of that fund, while we're also pulling in new revenue this year, and that will offset in the 27 budget. Non-choice tuition, those are the students who attend Lenox from Richmond at the high school level, and that is a small increase of 5,000, but we have 11 students this year, and I anticipate that number maybe to remain relatively stable, if not a little bit more, for numbers. And pre-K tuition, again, just a little bit more. It's a healthy fund balance that's also used, though. These are mostly used to offset salaries. The pre-K tuition account also is used for field trips, supplies, things of that nature that maybe the grant doesn't cover because it's a small grant. So that fund gets tapped into for other things other than salary. Duff and Theater, that's a fund where we receive the payments in for outside entities that want to use the theater. So they pay for use of the theater, they pay for the custodial overtime or staffing that is needed, and then that offsets things that may need to be done in the Duff and Theater for repair and time spent by the custodial staff or others to work the shows that are there. And then miscellaneous and use of facilities, very small accounts, but these are used to offset use of facilities, custodial overtime. Facilities coordinator that we have now, some of that goes to that. Miscellaneous items are really just that. I want this, I don't have it in my operating budget, we can use the miscellaneous for that then. So that's an increase of 233,000 year over year, which is 10% increase. So then that brings us to the net operating budget, which is the operating expenses without benefits still, but with the application of revenues. And so you see that the initial budget, as compared to '25, was a 5.96% increase. The current proposed budget is 4.25% increase over 2025. Then we add in the benefits.
And we covered some of the things that changed on the gross expense. What were the key things that changed on the revenue from the initial to now?
So the key things that changed were an application of more school choice. And I think maybe that 5,000 or 10,000 in tuition. But relatively speaking, those are the two biggest funds. So everything else is not going to be a big impact. But
And
those
circuit
will
breaker
be-
is just dictated by the state. We don't control that.
The what?
The circuit breaker.
Yes,
Yeah.
well, we submit the claims,
Right.
and circuit breaker is a reimbursement for special expenses over what they call the, where is it?
There's a threshold amount.
Threshold. But what do they call it's the student level? The 52,000, what is that technical name?
Well, it's the level of service for a student would, like, they average out a level of service, they come up with a formula to
Yeah.
basically figure out what your threshold is. If you go over that threshold, then you're eligible for get reimbursement back on what's over. We didn't, like, for this year, we won't qualify at this point. We're doing the calculations for the extraordinary relief. And that's because once we get to another baseline, then it's got to go over that. So last year, we did see an increase in that because we were not nearly at a level that we jumped up to because we had several different situations that popped it up over that. But then they look at where you are now next year, and if you don't go up again to exceeding amount, then you won't get that in the following year.
And then, yeah.
So the regular calculations, you have to wait unfortunately, till July. We are figuring those the calculations out right now because we can start entering while we do the extraordinary relief calculations, even if we're not going to qualify in the workbook. But we can't put in things like transportation costs and other things that we would see reimbursements on. That just hasn't happened yet for us. So we won't know the exact figures on that till, I would say, maybe past April.
Yeah, and that circuit breaker is a big part also of the change from 25 to 26 for revenues.
Yep.
And in order to qualify there's two types and two time periods where you can make claims. The extraordinary relief that Brian is talking about is 125% over the previous years. And that's when you can try to submit claims for extraordinary relief. And you'll recall last year we had a lot. This year we're not meeting that level, so we won't qualify for extraordinary relief, but we will get the regular circuit breaker. So then we take the net operating budget, which is the budget after revenues, and add benefits, expenses, and retirement assessment. Now the retirement assessment is Berkshire County Retirement assesses us, the town of Lenox, for a portion of the pension that our employees are paying into. The town also pays a portion of that, and then we split it between school and town employees. So the insurances, et cetera, in the initial budget were $4,095,000, and that's because I had a $635,000 amount for the assessment. It ended up being $637,000, so I adjusted it for the 26 budget, the current budget, to $409,744. That includes health insurances, life insurances, the Berkshire County retirement, and also included in that line are the payroll taxes like FICA that we have to pay. So that's showing an increase of 11.76 over the 3.6 million that was budgeted for this year. The health insurances had a 16% increase in the premiums. The retiree MedX supplemental plan had, I believe, over an 11% increase, I think 19, that's right. That was a long time ago, that was
3 months ago, I can't remember. But yeah, it was, I know, it was a very, very big increase because their calendar year. So what this budget has in it is 6 months at the known rate from July to December, and 6 months at an estimated rate from January to June. So that includes that as well, and that makes the total operating budget 17,848, 529. And then the town has provided, an application of free cash. They did it last year, and this year we are receiving $150,000 that they're going to request gets approved to be offset or appropriated to us to offset the operating budget. So that would bring it down to 17,698, which is a 6.9% increase year over year. And the initial budget, I have that percentage there. The one that was presented in January had a 9.15% increase, and we've been able to drop it down to the 6.9, which is the way we want it to go. Aside from the operating budget and the number that the taxpayers see, there's other revenue sources that we as a district use to operate the district. We get federal, state, local grants. We receive reimbursements for the food service program. We receive athletic gate receipts and user fees. And we also have the special education reserve account for any tuitions that may come in that are unbudgeted during the course of the year. We would be able to tap into that if we didn't have other sources or other means to pay the tuition. We could tap into it if it was unbudgeted, and with school committee approval and select board approval. So for the grants, we have state and federal grants, and those total roughly $500,000, $491,600. And the ones on this that you'll see in the next couple of slides are entitlement grants, which means that we receive them, we have to apply for them, we have to provide the documentation to receive them, but they're entitlement grants and we will get them if we do so. So we have Title I, which is provides resources to Morris Elementary and supports an interventionist and some support interventionists and instructional supplies. Title II is a professional development grant to improve teacher quality, and we use part of that to pay for the mentoring program, a portion of the mentoring program, and professional development for teachers. Title IV is a grant that helps to improve school culture and ensure that all students have access to high quality education. And really it's safe and supportive school, climate, and culture. And that is mostly used for professional development, focusing on climate and culture improvement. Early childhood is the first grant on the left for $8,700, and that is for ages 3, 4, and 5, mostly pre-K, and K also, kindergarten also receives some. IDEA is the special education grant, and that's $253,000, and that is used to support services and needs within the special education department. So for OT, PT, behavioral services, a lot of those come out of this grant. We put some money when we apply, we move some into out-of-district tuition and transportation so that we can, should something come up, we can use those funds, or if we get near the end of the year or the end of the grant cycle, apply it to what we've budgeted in operating and save that operating money during the course of the year. And then IDEA Part B is a small grant that the IEP process, which is the individual education plan process, has been revised, and so it helps with having professional development for the teachers and the team leaders that need to use the new IEP program. And then we also have state grants available. We have had the career pathways now for, this is the third year, and we've received $50,000 this year, and that's for career work readiness and career training, certification courses, and instructional supplies that are pertinent to career and college, could be not necessarily college readiness, but more so career oriented. And that's why there's certification courses being offered. Mass Fresh is a grant that we've applied for, but it is still in a pending status. We've applied for it a couple of months ago, and just waiting to see. I think the state is waiting to see if they do actually receive some funding for it. I do believe we'll get it if they do. And that's, our intent is to build more local food usage in both schools, and to hire a farm-to-school coordinator that can get that moving along within both cafeterias. And then training the food service employees for scratch cookings. Local grants, now Mass Hire is a state grant, but Berkshire Workforce is the local entity that manages it, and the one that we apply to. So that's $5,500, again, focuses on career and workforce. And LEAF grant, which is the Lenox Educational Enrichment Foundation, and those are maybe 8 to 10 each year. Small grants for things like maybe a wellness program on Saturday, a field trip somewhere on one day. So very small grants that target students that just give us more funding that we need for some of the specialized stuff. And the total of all the grants is less than $6,000, so they are small grants. So the Special Ed Reserve Fund balance is the account that I spoke about earlier, that currently has a $250,000 balance in it. And the boxes that you see up there are the dates that there was funding moved from appropriation or free cash into the fund balance. And I went back through some of the meeting minutes, and it was noted that it was always from school department appropriation. However, the warrant articles didn't say school department, so it probably got voted on during the course of the meeting to come from school department. Once those are voted on, then the money can transfer in. And this was set up years ago, and it's been at this level for a long time. But anytime we want to use it, if we need to use it, it has to be approval of the school committee and the select board.
If we can just pause for a minute here. It's come up in different subcommittee meetings and also with the town finance committee meeting that this may be an excellent opportunity to be able to increase the reserve, not just because of unexpected out-of-district costs that may come up, but other reasons as well. We've talked about it a little bit. I think this committee should think about increasing that cap. I've talked to both Melissa and Dr. Collins and the chair. Right now, the idea is increasing it anywhere from an extra $250,000 to an extra $500,000. And I'd love to hear anybody's thoughts or opinions about that at this time.
May I ask, Brian, Director Kelly, if we were to get a surprise out-of-district residential, what could we be looking at?
Most of the average costs now are high 200,000, 300, mid 300,000 for overnight residential care. So day programs, some of the local ones were hovering around 60K plus transportation. So when you don't have the residential, then you incur the transportation fee, which usually will also then cost you another $70K. So we're talking $130, $140 for a day. If it's full residential, we're talking, you probably, as the prices go up, three plus.
So when this was very prudent, when this was originally put in, if there was a surprise special education situation, this would have covered it. But today, even this wouldn't cover one surprise residential. And last year, we ended up with two and had to ask the town for.
Yeah, our least expensive is a residential, actually it's at the Cape, and that is a little over $100K. And obviously then you don't have any transportation fees, but most of those are non-existent. I mean, that's an outlier for sure for full residential. Usually your day programs are actually running over $100K in areas that are local to here.
Thank you.
I just think between what Brian just explained and the uncertainty that we all know of, whether we are going to be still continuing to receive certain funding, whether it be federally, at federal level, state level. As we were just told, one placement could completely wipe out this reserve fund. To me, it makes sense to want to raise that cap and continue with the annual disbursements into this account. I mean, it could be, we could be looking at, losing a teaching position, we could look at programs for special education, besides the student placement. I just think that it would be smart of us to think ahead and raise that limit if we can. I don't think we're too late, and just have some more annual disbursements into that account.
Yeah, I agree with Kim. I feel that it's a vulnerability we have in our budget right now, and I think, by upping this cap, it would at least give us a little bit more breathing room, a little bit more contingency plan to put in place.
I just want to say too, when we were meeting with the town finance committee, they actually had the foresight to bring this up and to mention to us, look at, you might want to think about increasing that, and how can you go about that? You might want to go back to your committee and talk to your committee about this because of the various reasons that I just mentioned.
And we are able to fill it not just with new appropriations, but with remainder appropriations at the end of a year.
So the law, and I'm not sure how it was written for Lenox, and sometimes it says specifically how to fund it, but the law is you can actually budget for it in your budgeting process. You can use appropriations at the end of the year that you still have that aren't going to be expended. You can use the free cash from the town, regardless of where it came from. So there's a few ways to fund it. I do think that at least it looks just by the dates that the funding went in at the fall special town meeting and at the May town meeting. So it looks like it's has been formally done at those two times. And it hasn't been in the budget, I think, at least immediately prior to me coming and then me being here. It hasn't been a budget item.
I mean, I certainly agree we should increase it. It just occurs to me that a good way to fund it would be that every year we hold in the reserve some amount of money for just such contingencies. In any year when we don't end up needing it for that, if we were to essentially, we were just talking about this year's, there is an amount probably on the order of 50,000 that is held in there anyway. If we get to the end of the year and we haven't used it, I think it makes, we've essentially already committed it as a reserve fund for this sort of situation, and so it'd be good to then be able to hold it over. And then over time, we would also, as this fills up, we don't necessarily need to hold as much in the annual reserve budget because we saved it away. Do you have a sense at this point, I guess it's probably wait till the end of the year to see if we expect to have funds at the end of this year?
Yes, if you can give me just a little more time to, as we start, I have a spreadsheet that says, okay, here's another payroll, this is where we are, this is what we're using for school choice and other offsets, and this is where we'll be. So I'll be able to see the balances once we get a little bit closer. Typically, when this part of the financial picture is completed, then I start focusing on end of year and what it looks like for the district and how much we think we'll be able to give back to the town. You know, and we have revenues like the grants that if we were short, we could move an expense to the grant that has it, preferably one that's ending soon, so that we still had access to the current one until it was almost ending. And you can do things like that that will free up the money in the operating.
Yeah. That makes, so all of which, I mean, so one thing I would suggest is just that we figure out how to move forward with raising the cap at this year's town meeting, but not necessarily to ask for an additional appropriation at this point, but rather make sure the policies are in place that we can be rolling up to $50,000 a year in, and hopefully fill it by virtue of the appropriations the town is committing to anyway.
So that's an article that we would have to put at a town meeting just to raise the cap in where the money is coming from. Is not what I'm asking. We're not making an ask from the town, we're just looking to raise the cap.
Correct, so that when we do have money available, we can put it in.
Okay, and what's that time frame? I know the articles have to get in like by a certain time.
It's presumably at the point where the budget has to be finalized.
Yeah, it's usually end of March.
So soon.
Maybe first week in April, and I'm guessing at the first week in April. I know that because the school committee's not voting until March 24th.
Right.
So, and typically right after that, within a week, I'm giving the numbers to Jay's office for the warrant.
And it is also, ultimately it is, would we, as the school committee, need to sort of approve and formally propose the raising of the cap, or is that something that ultimately comes from the select board?
I think that it would initiate with the school committee.
Okay.
And then the select board would be involved, and then the town.
All right, so we should plan then, I don't know, if you feel good about this approach, we'll put it on the agenda in addition to approving the budget after the hearing, and also approve our intention to raise the cap.
And come up with the cap that we will give them the cap. Okay, sure.
Very good.
Yeah, and I can talk with Jay and get a firm date that we have to have the language in that.
Yeah, just in any language or whatever he specifically needs from us.
Okay.
Thank you. That's great.
Thank you.
So with all those other sources besides what is appropriated through town meeting and through this process, the total expense, the expense total to run the district is around 21.4 million, 21.5. You know, some of the grants may be a 22-month cycle, so even though we receive it in, we may not be spending it in that year. So it's in the neighborhood of this amount, and it's not an exact number. But it includes the grants, food service, operating, athletics, 21.4.
And if we were to break out, I think at various points in the presentations, up to this point, we've had sort of, you know, what are the incremental investments? And it seems like the big ones are ELA interventionist, grant writer, technology, investments. Are those probably the three biggest?
Yes. Yes. So the interventionist is he budgeted in there for about 80,000, and then plus benefits. And the grant writer is half-time at about 40. And then technology, we had the increase, I can't remember the total dollars for the increase, but it was 40-something.
Yeah. And is that, Randy, do you know how much of the technology increase is just sort of level service versus sort of new investment?
Well, the new services that we were looking at was the Risk AI.
Yep.
A little small additional increase for the carts if we went to carts in Panorama.
Okay, and so that was 25 or 30 probably?
Yeah, and Panorama is, that's the teacher dashboard that mimics our MTSS setup, as well as survey. A portion of it is a survey tool, and that was about, we're going back and forth with the company, but we're hoping to get it at around 23 to 24,000, and that's what's in the budget. And that's sitting in technology.
Yep. Okay.
So this last slide, well, second to last slide, shows the black, it's hard to see here, but the top is black, and then the ones in the middle are all green, denoting revenues. And then school choice at the bottom is an assessment to the town, so that's black, darker color. So the operating's at 20.4, we're applying 2.5 million revenue plus 150 free cash to bring us down to 17,698. State aid, which is the Chapter 70 formula. Lenox is a minimum aid town, which means we only get a certain dollar amount per pupil. So what they do is they take all of the foundation students, which are the students that live in Lenox, reside in Lenox, regardless of where they go to school, and calculate that number times whatever the minimum aid is. The budget at the state level is now in finishing up with the House Ways and Means Committee. I think they're done, and I've heard ramblings that they're increasing the per student to 75. We've seen it at 60, but not 75 yet. So if that goes through, we'll see a little bit of a bump to that 1.428, but that goes to the town. As does, you know, the assessment for school choice students goes to the town as well. And so our next steps are to review just once over one more time and continue to monitor if any new retirements come through or column movements that we don't have yet, and any new personnel that is hired, but I think we're done at this point, so everything that's in there should be accurate. And then we have the school committee vote on the budget on the 24th, and then the town meeting on May 1st.
All right. Well, this is our opportunity to deliberate on the budget as we wish. I guess I would just start by saying thank you and congratulations to you and to the finance subcommittee. This is, you know, obviously the numbers are bigger than we have historically wanted them to be, but with inflation at 3%, having our budget that we control go up 4.25% is a very lean budget, and then being at 6.9, I guess, all in, even with the healthcare, you know, that's something that we're seeing. I think a lot of folks in our area get to only after much more painful decisions along the way, and so, you know, I think it is a testament to how well administration works with the teachers and the collaborative attitude that everybody takes to making sure we are stewarding our resources well, and also just to how well we have done over the past few years of making sure that we were not making commitments that we would not be able to keep up with in the long run. So, you know, I certainly welcome other comments on it, but I just want to say I feel very good about where we've come out here.
Yeah, very good. I'd also like to just say thanks to everybody involved. You know, it's a long process, and you know, we really couldn't do it without Melissa, and great work from the subcommittee and everybody involved. Thanks very much.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely.
So we will bring this back for the public hearing in 2 weeks, and we'll have to vote on it at that point.
Yeah.
All of the numbers will change one more time by tiny amounts, and then we'll ask you about why each of them changed by the tiny amount that it did.
And I will, I know that slide that is the difference, the value added slide, basically, I'll add that in there. That's a good one to have, so
Yeah.
I'll make sure that I add that in.
Yeah, because I was just sort of doing back of the envelope based on the amounts that we just ran down. We're really looking at adjusting for inflation, a 3% budget and a percent of investments that we want to make. I think that's where we want to be. So, and I think the benefits from the investments will be substantial, and in the case of the grant writer, will probably more than pay for itself. So, I think this will be a very good budget to bring to the town. All right. Well, then we're on to the capital plan. Who's presenting on the capital plan? Oh, Melissa.
Okay, let's find it. So first, I just want to preface this presentation by saying, please don't be alarmed that the project costs are higher than the appropriation. We will, as a group, meet, prioritize. There most likely will be some funding from this year that I can use to offset some of the smaller ones this year. And so we'll prioritize and probably push some that aren't as necessary or have to be done right away to 27. But I'm going to show you projects that total about 700 and some odd, and we received 400,000 in appropriation. So we'll work on that and we'll move them around as we need to. We had already decided at the beginning of the year that we would present what we needed and then meet together as a group and prioritize. So our focus areas continue to be the security and maintenance of the school buildings. We've had a lot of issues with the gym roof at LMMHS this year, so we're looking at replacing that section or sections of that section. Replacement of equipment as needed, and that includes, we should be in good shape, but because we replaced the mower, we replaced some of the auto scrubbers here. So I think we're in good shape there, but sometimes, if a equipment item is 10 years old, they can't find the parts, and then we have to go to Plan B. Our technology renewals are included in that, and then, of course, exclusive of the appropriation, we have the MSBA project.
Okay. So anything related to that project would be a separate item?
Yes, there's nothing on here for it. I just wanted to put it, that was an area we were discussing. So at LMMHS, we're looking at gym roof repair of up to $300,000. We have an official quote that it might be in that area, so I think that that's probably fairly accurate. We're waiting for a quote on the gym sound system, so I don't have a price on that yet. And these are some of the items that we might be able to move into this year. The Duffin carpeting, the front doors and the Duffin doors need to be repaired. All of those doors together are $32,000, and then bottle fill stations for $6,200. There's a few other items that Jeremiah and the facilities staff had wanted, but I had already allocated them to 25, so they're not on here for 26. So we might be able to move some of these over and free up more cash in '26 for other items. 300,000 is 75% of the appropriation for capital this year, upcoming year.
Is there any way to spread that across 2 years?
You could, depends on what's on the roof, but at my previous district, we did sections, and we hit the worst one first at the middle school, and then we did the next one, and we did it at the end of the year with funding that was not expended. So we had to do it over a period of years. I think you can.
So I'm seeing 300 for the gym repair and then 100 for other areas of the roof repair. Where's that for? The gym roof repair 300, and then didn't I see 100 for, what did I see that?
Oh, that was at Morris.
Oh, at Morris,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So
That's a standing item. We put it on there because there's always repairs that need to happen.
Okay.
We haven't typically spent that amount, but that is the number that we typically put in this presentation
Okay.
because
Alright.
one year it could be that high.
Okay.
Melissa, the 300,000 for the gym roof repair, I know that we are a couple of years away from having a maturity of, I believe it's 30 years on the roof for the building anyway, and at which point, the state is gonna, come in and give us some assistance with that project. I'm not saying that we should not do anything by any means, but if it is possible to, hold back, do the absolutely essential, what we need to do.
Duct tape some garbage bags.
Yeah, a couple tarps,
And with, I'm sorry.
No, yeah, go ahead.
And with potential of an MSBA project, where that's been discussed, maybe put that in there and remove some of the other stuff and put that into the annual appropriation. You have to look at where before we know what we're doing at this point, but when we know what we're doing, you do enough to maintain while you wait.
Right.
So, and that's where what we would do should we move forward in that
Excellent.
project.
Great.
I can speak to the gym roof very briefly.
Yes.
The idea of doing it sections is, just keep in mind that is one section of, there are many, many, many roof fields, and that is just one that doesn't include the locker rooms, for example, on both sides. It's just the main gym roof. It's worth noting that it's, I've heard people challenge me on this and claim that it's simply because the gym is so public facing, that's why we're repairing that roof. And that is true, but that's not really what's driving this. You've got to remember that when we do get leaks, it's a very, very expensive floor that it leaks onto. And if we do end up, if that warps, we're out of gym for the season. It's an instructional space we run that is filled with PE classes all day long. I commend everybody who has anything to do with that roof. We've got a lot of people working very, very hard to keep the floor dry, but it's less than ideal. And very publicly thanks Scotty Kelly for loaning us his lift when ours is down, for example, but we have buckets and we have hoses, and if you've been in that gym and you look up, there's a lot of apparatus that just, it makes me so nervous to think it's secure, it is, I think. Trust me on that, but it's the equivalent of the duct tape and the patches on the floor. It's not sustainable, and this is just one rectangle, that's all we're doing, it just happens to be very, very crisp.
I was just going to say, I'm worried about recognizing that the gym roof is just the gym roof, it's not all the other areas. I'm worried about the domino effect of not repairing that with the floor, that I'm worried about the more of the expense that comes with not repairing that. I'm really worried about a domino effect with that. And to me, I understand that that's 75% of the appropriations that we have up here. To me, any type of roof repair is important. Yeah, it's important.
Yeah.
So, and not that anything else here isn't, and like I said, and like you said, if you could, piecemeal away from other areas or from the budget, this year's budget, I feel very, very strongly about that gym roof repair. That makes me very nervous about the ongoing expenses that might come as a result of not repairing that gym.
No, I agree.
I look at some of the other things and I think it could probably be pushed off,
Or absorbed in this year.
Or absorbed in this year, yeah. But, I mean, anytime you're talking about a roof with, it's just, yeah. And the gym, as Jeremiah said, is not just basketball, and it's instructional, it's, it's used for a lot more than just coming to the games.
So it sounds like it is a very high priority.
It's personally and professionally the highest.
Very good, thank you.
Morris, so we have a request to update the library furniture. Again, smaller ones, I might be able to move into this year. Restroom partitions repair, window repair in the west wing, floor repair in the west wing, cooling in the IT rooms, and again, exterior door replacement. And that falls, within the safety and security issues that we want to tackle. And then roof section repairs. This has been a standing item for years.
Do we currently have any problems?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It hasn't been a nice winter.
Yeah, I just worry about just pushing it off and pushing it off. Because there's so much else that can come along with it.
It was a tough winter with the amount of ice and cold. And that, I think, created many more issues this year than we've seen in the past. Right? Am I correct? Yeah.
Yes.
Looking at this, Brenda, what would you say is your priority? Besides all of them. If you had to prioritize.
Well, there was something else on the capital request that I've not seen in a focus area, so I'm not sure. It maybe went into the technology software?
It probably went into this year, if it's not up here.
The sound system for the gym? It was over 100, okay.
No, it's not over 100, was it?
It was pretty expensive.
I think it was 48.
There were a couple requests attached to that.
Anyway.
Priority for Morris is actually really fixing the roof, I have to say, because it's just, for many reasons, leaks cause danger if there's water on the floor for many reasons. So that is number one. Second would be an upgrade to the sound system in the gym. Yeah. And then there's window repairs and that we do a little bit each year.
I'll look again at the sound system. Technology, replacement devices, we do this every year. Included in this, it's a little bit higher, we usually say about 50,000. There's the renewal cycle, plus there's also replacement of staff laptops to MacBooks, and then maybe Apple TV to go along with it. Not exorbitant, but I think he had one to add to the devices. Randy still here?
Where's Randy?
Replacement cameras, he's looking to do this perhaps in stages. The total is 110,000. I think that we would have to do it in stages. And our phone system, we've received a few quotes and different options. To actually purchase it is over 100,000, but to rent it is a monthly fee, which seems more reasonable, but we're going to look at that again and see which one is the best way to go. If we're leasing it, it wouldn't be a capital, it would fall into the operating budget, unfortunately.
We pay a bit more upfront, but then for the life of the phone system, it is less expensive if we own it. So significantly less expensive.
Yeah, if
Is
we
it still like an analog landline phone system?
It's
Voice over
Wi-Fi.
protocol.
What is it?
Voice over internet protocol.
It's a Wi-Fi system.
Right.
It wouldn't be, which is what we have now. I'm not sure. I wish Randy was.
Yeah, my understanding is that some of the parts that support this, he has to get off of eBay or something, that it's just an older, system that is not supported anymore, and we're able to keep it going, but if it has a significant crash, we may not be in a position to bring it back up. We would not be without a phone if there was a significant crash in an emergency or whatever, we could still communicate.
The access controller is an upgrade to the current one, which is the 5-axis. So it's upgrade to the next version of it. And then the Chromebook cards that you spoke about at the meeting are on here as well.
Okay.
But
So
that
that's
can also
not
be-
that's not in operating?
No. So that can also be adjusted, and done over time as well. I think he would rather do it all at once, but we could split it, I think.
The access controller for the fob entry, would you say it was a upgrade?
Yeah.
So that would have to get done?
Yeah, I think I can
Right.
do it this year too.
You can do that this year
Yeah,
too? Yeah.
so that probably would come off.
I vote roofs. Not that any of this is not important, but I vote roofs. To me, nothing else makes sense to me. I mean, you're just asking for trouble.
I mean, I'm not a carpenter, but I've been told by many carpenters, one of the biggest rules is keep water out.
Yeah.
Water is not good for your house.
No, electrical, everything. Whatever else can be done, but I just feel like, I don't think it would be foolish to spend the $400,000 that's appropriated on the two roofs at both schools. That's
No.
just my feeling.
No, and I do think though for the MSBA portion of it, we should see where that ends up.
Look at the rest of
Because there's
the
been
roofs.
discussion about adding the whole roof
Right.
to the project if possible. So I think that you don't want to spend $300,000 and then just redo it again.
And when would we know that by? We would not be
Not
going.
for this budget.
We would not, we'd still be going through another winter and another.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
it wouldn't happen.
so we'd be pushing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a shame, timing wise, but, priorities are priorities. And one of the reasons why the MSBA likes us is we actually take care of our buildings. So we're going to continue to keep doing that,
Except we're not.
only if we decide not to.
Right.
And just, we're 2 years away from our roof being eligible for significant reimbursement, which is part of what we've been holding on. So if there are ways to not, if there are ways to do what needs to be done to keep water egress out and hit that 2-year mark and then be able to, regardless of what happens in the building project, be eligible for our roof to get reimbursement on, it would be really good for the taxpayers to not have to pay for the whole roof if they could get, whatever, 30 to 40% from the state. So but I'm all about, we have to keep the water out, I understand.
But in my understanding is that it's just the gym section, and is it just a section at Morris? It's not?
No, it's a couple different
There's a couple different sections, okay.
Yeah.
And to be clear, but there are a couple hotspots here as well. The gym really does. Almost done.
So looking forward, we've got discussion about the MSBA project and the feasibility process coming up. We want to continue with the security and maintenance projects within both school buildings, technology renewals, and then, we're going to have to postpone less critical projects in once to take care of what we have to. That's it.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you. You're the best.
All right, that brings us to the end of new business. One item on unfinished business related to community engagement. We've reached the point in the year when we can look beyond the end of the budget process, at which point we had been planning to plan some sort of opportunity to sort of hold informal forums at the schools to address other issues that would still be on our agenda this year and going forward. So I will follow up with a detailed scheduling email, but wanted to let everybody know and make sure it was okay that we would probably be looking at the weeks of March 31st, so actually the first week of April, and then the second week of April, probably try to do 2 evenings here at LMHS, one for middle school, one for high school, 2 evenings at Morris, one for pre-K to 2 and one for 3 to 5, and kind of just mark out 5:30 to 7 p.m., put out announcement that we'll be there, some topics we have on our mind, but obviously anything else is welcome as well, and just make sure we have 3 school committee members there for each
Who's
one.
facilitating that?
It'll just be one of the committee members will facilitate each session.
And what would the topics, have the topics already been determined, or?
We'll have a few that we know are still on our agenda that we have to resolve by, that are ongoing by the end of the year. There's health curriculum, there's for LMHS, the building, although certainly given time frame, those at Morris today almost have more interest in the building than those at LMHS today. I think strategic plan and just other priorities that people would want to see in focus going forward is probably the third. We can identify anything else that we sort of still have on our agenda as the year wraps up. But then anything that others wanted to raise, it would not be a hearing or a press conference where we necessarily have answers for things, but it would be an opportunity to get any feedback or input as we wrap up our year.
I'm just worried about the timing. There's so many meetings, public hearings, around budget season with all the various departments besides us. We're in then our ongoing building meetings that people come to on Thursdays, and I just worry about the timing of adding a couple more meetings into that. I think it would be great maybe before now. I just worry about the timing. I hope we get the turnout that you're looking for, but it just adds to the public hearings that you would like people to come to, the school building updates that you want people to come to, and so I worry about the timing of it. There's a lot going on at this particular time, not just the school department, but all the departments as well, and expectations of public comment.
No, I think that's right. I think from my perspective, the turnout isn't the goal. We welcome turnout, but if it is an opportunity for anyone who was looking for an opportunity to come speak to us, and so I wouldn't expect.
Is it going to be televised?
No.
Oh, so turnout wouldn't, I'm confused.
Well, in other words, it is not something that requires a crowd. It's something that is for anybody who wants to have the opportunity and an opportunity that's available.
To talk to a school committee member and ask questions.
So the community can engage more directly with us.
Right.
Because
it's
otherwise,
also important to let the community know that they can reach out to the school committee members at any time via email or phone call, or we're always available.
And I think we'll definitely, in announcing these, note that as well. But that's a good point. We should let them.
Yeah.
I like that.
I would, yes. People are, I don't know if you're allowed to ask this. And I always say, I'm not sure I can answer that.
The emails will say, you can, anyone with other questions or concerns can contact Kim Graham. And then like 3 lines down, other committee members include.
I can answer that first. Okay, that's good.
Okay. We need to do a short executive session, so we'll adjourn to that unless anyone has anything else.
I'll make a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel without the intent to return to regular session.
The second what she said.
This is roll call.
It is roll call. Get ready, Mike. Kim Graham.
Kim Graham, aye.
Michael Dupont, aye.
Kevin Cass, aye.
Kim Winger, aye.
It is unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you all very much.